Welcome to the Lufthansa Innovation Hub, and glad to have you here. Maybe we can do a short introduction.
That would be great, yes. That would be wonderful.
So maybe we start right away. So we are the strategic design team at the Lufthansa Innovation Hub. Unfortunately, Tino, as you know,
He's malade. He's a little sick. That's too bad.
He's caring also for his whole family, 2 little children. So it's better to have him in home office.
Okay.
We are strategic designers, so our background is design, but we help our ventures and all our departments to strategically develop new opportunity spaces, new projects, help them to define concepts and create new business ideas or structure their business and help them grow faster.
Very cool. And your name again?
My name is Vera.
Vera.
Yeah.
Okay.
My name is Mintam. Mintam.
Mintam.
Yeah.
M-I-N?
H-T-A-M.
That makes sense, totally.
We're very curious to hear more about why you're here.
Why
what
we're
are your
here.
expectations
Absolutely. Yes.
and where you're coming from?
Maybe I can take this on for a minute. So yeah, my name is Nick. I work with Art Center College of Design. This is our fearless team of students from various disciplines who are here for a total of 90 days, 3 months in Berlin as part of our Test Lab Berlin series. Rob Ball is the key instructor of the Berlin studio, and we do this virtually every term, 3 times a year. We do a project, and it has various subject matters depending on whether it's a self-initiated or a sponsored project. This term, the main theme or the main project is called, our working title is Travelism. So we're thinking about rethinking the tourist experience, and we didn't come up with that by ourselves, but it is actually sponsored by Visit Berlin and co-sponsored by New York & Company. So we have the 2 destination management or destination marketing organizations of both cities behind this project. And what they want our group of students to find out is what kind of new win-win situations can be created between the locals, the hosting city, and tourists. So how to turn this into a better experience for everyone. And we're looking at that through various lenses. So 12 students are broken down to 4 teams of 3 people. And you will hear a little bit, what their backgrounds are and their majors are. But while we're here today, so one thing why we're super excited about is that I know that Tino showed me some super innovative work you're doing in the whole travel/tourism experience. But the other reason is that we're doing a side project which is called The Berlin Way. And The Berlin Way is to create to map out the Berlin's creative industries. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to visit and interview as many different people who are somehow associated with Berlin's creative industry. So these are like, established designers on one hand, up and coming people. I see you, from what I've understood with the Innovation Lab, you're representing a certain kind of startup culture in Berlin. You're also representing, the reason why big global brands like Lufthansa choose to be in Berlin. Why are they here? What do you get out of being here? And that is going to be the main focus of an interview that we would like to do with you guys. So whenever we do this, for every session, we have 3 people from the group. One is interviewing our we can't say our guests, but our interviewees, then one person is filming it, and then we have an editor who puts all of that together then into a portrait of these, people who were being interviewed, and then representative of that, this becomes, someone that is portrayed as a member of Berlin's creative industry. And the longer we do that, the more diverse the picture will be. So I hope you're okay if, after, you talk a bit, that would then go a little bit in a Q&A mode.
Yeah.
They have prepared some questions. They did a little bit of research about the Innovation Lab as much as they could find, and then they have specific questions about your relationship to Berlin and the creative industries. Okay, that's enough. That was enough airtime now.
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah, you okay with that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, all right.
So I just ask away?
No. Just introduce around the room, a very quick introduction, and then I think you're going to talk a little bit about what you do,
Yeah.
and then we're going to go into the Q&A mode.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. I'm Jessie. I'm from Art Center, and I'm doing illustration right now.
Oh, I'm Lindy. I also from Art Center and I study illustration too.
My name is Phoebe and I study graphic design.
I'm Luciano. I'm also from Art Center,
Oh,
but I was raised in Miami, and now I'm in LA.
Hi, my name is Ferris. I'm a graphic student, and I grew up in Dubai.
And I'm Rob, the other faculty member along with Nick, and really thrilled to be here this morning.
My name is Alyssa. I study graphic design and I grew up in Oregon.
Hi, my name is Bonnie and I'm studying product design and I grew up in California.
Hi, I'm Shing. I'm interaction design and I come from China.
Michelle, graphic design.
and I believe we have two stragglers who will hopefully show up in the next couple minutes.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so we would like to make just a quick introduction. We already had the introduction also on both sides, but just a small overview about the Lufthansa Innovation Hub. What are we doing? Why do we actually exist? What are our future plans? And just a little introduction into the strategic design and our projects we're also currently working on. And then we want to start right away into answering your questions. So the Lufthansa Innovation Hub is established and founded in 2014, and we are a 100% daughter company of the Lufthansa Group. So we are the main unit for innovation and digitalization in new business context. So our main purpose is to do new business in the digital field of tech and mobility spaces. We are based in Berlin. We currently opened our office in Singapore, and later this year we are also planning to open our third office in Shanghai, Singapore, because of course we want to move to the Asian Pacific area because we see a lot of trends, we see a lot of fundings going into startups there, and Singapore is a less painful entrance than directly China. So, but the next step will be Shanghai as well.
And the location for Berlin was specifically chosen because Lufthansa is in Frankfurt and all of the business is there, but they really wanted to be part of the ecosystem in Berlin because they also saw the big opportunity about the creativity and the opportunities. So that's why the hub is here, and we try to also bridge our knowledge to Frankfurt, to the main corporate.
Yeah, and that's why we are also located in between the global travel and mobility tech ecosystem and the Lufthansa Group. So we want to be not too close to the group, but still give them some information, some knowledge, and have an exchange. Also have the advantage of getting resources and access to major topics in the group, but still be part of the startup scene in Berlin.
Have the best of both worlds, actually.
Yeah. And this is a quite important slide for us. We were nominated as the Best Innovation Lab in 2017 and 2018. And last year we didn't participate because it's actually a quite long process when people are visiting the hub. They are observing the way we are working, they're observing workshops, they're observing daily business, then they want to see all numbers. So it's quite a long process, and we said, okay, 2 years in a row, it's fine, and 2020 we will see what's happening. So let's get right away into our definition of travel and mobility tech. We're looking at the customer journey as it is right now, the traveler customer journey. And we have a very long, as we all know, customer journey like trigger, where we get triggered for a holiday or a business trip. Then we have the engage phase, where I'm actually looking for trips, looking for accommodations. Then maybe I booked the trip. I have the pre-trip, the packing of the luggage, and I have the transport to the airport, and then transport also to the destination via plane. And I have mobility at the end destination, for example, when we're visiting New York, when we're going by metro or Uber, and of course experiences, accommodation, and then I have the post-trip. But we think that this whole travel chain should be thought differently. So we changed it into the, how we call it, infinite eight or traveler's life cycle. Because the ideal case is that everything is in a loop and we can directly trigger and engage our customers again to book a trip with our airlines or with partners we're working at. And we also want to see the transport is in the middle of everything, but there's always a back and forth, because currently you don't look at the airplane transport as I go from home to destination or back. It's either way. Nobody knows if you're going home or if you're going to your holiday destination. So we want to change that, because we think it's a significant difference if you're coming home or to a destination. Hello. So why are we looking at the field of travel and mobility tech, and why do we actually exist? Because we see a lot of global dynamics in the field of innovation, especially when we're looking at the numbers of fundings that happened in the last years. So we see that 2018 we had a big peak of fundings in the field of travel and mobility tech, and it's a slightly decrease happening, but still a lot of fundings, also a percentage of global fundings, are going into the travel and mobility tech scene. So that tells us, of course, there's a speed of innovation happening, and that it's a very relevant topic also for VCs, for venture capitals. And if we're looking at all the unicorns, a unicorn is valued over $200 billion. So you might know some, but especially for us it was a surprise when we're looking at the Asian Pacific area, where we actually didn't know most of the unicorns. So that's why our decision was also we really need to get into this area, we really need to get into this destination to understand their ecosystem, how they are traveling, how they are moving in their everyday life. So Asia is increasingly growing in the ecosystem and spearheading, and we think that we can learn a lot from how they are approaching topics, how they are building up products, how they are cooperating, partnering between those startups, and yeah, that's why we are in Singapore and soon in Shanghai.
And a lot of times there's a startup starting in Asia, and we see a trend that is coming then to Europe, because Europe is quite slow in adapting innovation. So we try to really open up the space and widen our scope.
Yeah. Our strategic measures, our mission is we want to create and capture value beyond flying, and we want to do this in every touch point. We want to be everywhere where our customers are moving, are traveling, are thinking about traveling. We want to just be there and have a stake, have data, have access to the customer.
Yeah, because usually an airline is only looking at the flight. We can also have more opportunities before really the flight and after it.
And that's why our vision is we want to own a share in every trip our customer is doing. If it's the e-scooter downstairs on the street, if it's the metro, we want to be everywhere where our customer is moving from A to B. And just a very short overview about our setup. So we have 5 fields of action that are also represented in our departments and our teams. So we have the discover team, because everything that we're doing is data driven. So we're always starting with market numbers. How big is the market that we can approach? Where do we see trends? Where are venture capitals funding new startups? Where's the money going? What is happening in the Asian Pacific area? Then we have our partner team, because we think that innovation is not happening behind walls. We want to be open, we want to have partnerships. It's very relevant for us, but also for the group. So we have an own partnership team that is only responsible for looking at possibilities, opportunities for us to do partnerships, but also for the group. Then our biggest team, the build team, I think it's almost 40% of our employees, are the venture developers, of course, because our approach is to have several startups, ventures at the same time, and they are responsible for building these startups, growing the startups, and in the end, be an own company in the very end. And but besides partnering and building, we also invest, because we know that not everything that's happening out there we can do ourselves, and it's better to be close by those competitors maybe, or companies that disrupt our industry, and therefore we do strategic investments like Hopper. Hopper is a tool where so usually the revenue management of an airline defines different days where the price is higher. Like, they know you will probably think about going on holidays during Christmas break. So the prices of the flights are just raising over Christmas. And Hopper is an app that tracks all the data, and they tell you, don't book over Christmas. We're gonna tell you when is the best time to book your holidays, and it's definitely not Christmas, it's in the second week of January, Thursday. Book your holidays on this day. So we know that this is a huge issue for our whole pricing model, but we think it's better to make a partnership and invest in this kind of startup or companies, to have a strategic partnership, to learn from their approach, to get access to their data, and to maybe have a partnership in booking in the future. And so the last part is very important for the group. So we have the transform team. They are responsible for bringing all our learnings, all our doing methods back into the group, because we know that as a innovation hub, we're just a small piece, we're just few people, and the group is just this big shift that we cannot steer, we cannot change overnight. But we know that we should always get back our learnings to the group, bring them some knowledge that we learn from opportunity spaces, and therefore we have our own transform team that is 100% working with the group to teach them about our way of working.
Yeah, this team is really often in Frankfurt and tries to talk to the people there and then bring them here, and we sometimes go there and do workshops. Yeah, so we'll be trying to bridge it. A lot of the people in Frankfurt know us, but they don't really know what we're doing. They just know, oh, there are like 30 people in Berlin, they do like innovation, but they don't know about the project. So sometimes we go over and talk about it, and they get a better understanding.
Yeah, always the Berlin hipster people with the white sneakers.
Sometimes they come over and then they like to take pictures with our
with the cube and the red line, and they're like,
yeah, finally they're in Berlin and see the hub.
No corporate rooms. Yeah. And our whole innovation hub, I don't know if you know the dynamic capabilities, but our whole setup is building up on the dynamic capabilities, which are kind of a framework for innovation, because they say you need to sense the future, you need to be aware of what's happening in the market, what's happening, where are the trends, where's the money going. Then you need to seize the things, but you also need to constantly transform yourself and your company. And we as a strategic design are basically in every part of the team. So we don't really belong in just one part, but we jump from project to project. So we're working in 1 to 2 week sprints. And for example, we are working with Discover to look for new opportunity spaces. We're working with our ventures to help them build up a company strategy, a brand strategy, a product strategy, help them redefine their product based on the target group, and but also work, of course, with Transform to bring our methods into the group. Yeah, so
we're the brain.
We are the brain, and yeah, maybe you want to make a short introduction.
Sure. So we have 3 big areas where we try to help our teams. So as Vera told you, we try to scale the potential opportunities that we see. So we also in our team take time to scan the field and try to find opportunity spaces. We work with the Discover team to get their data points, their research, and try to ideate on it and find a strategy. And because we're kind of in the middle of everyone, we're the people who synchronize all of it and try to balance the different perspectives, because the ventures are very interested in being fast and just doing it, but we are there to just tell them, hey, you also have to like sit down, really think about it, do you really want to go this direction? and then really try to make it more strategic, basically. In this way, we minimize the uncertainty that a venture fails, and we work on a further roadmap so they know, okay, this is the first step we should do, and then the next step, and just don't go like all over. Then we also complement and enrich work streams. As I said, we try to really go in the projects and talk to everyone and get their points and put our strategic point in it. We have our methods that we apply, and we go in there for a couple of weeks and work very closely and intense on projects, and then we go out again and then they have their own project back. So the formats would be like venture to fix. So every week we meet up with the people and like update on each other. And the third area is grow and share expertise. So this is mostly with the Transform team, but also internally we have different formats like sharing sessions where we come together and then we talk about a topic that is interesting to everyone. And in the morning we have brain briefings, which are more of a short format. We try to also develop our own creative format where we invite all of the others for a session, and then we try out our new methods before we use them on real projects. So this is our 3 main areas we work on. Nice innovation. Nice innovation. This is just an overview of us trying to be involved in everything.
Yeah. So I think it's very interesting for us also to see what's happening in every project, because also you would think that in a team, the Innovation Hub has about 35 people. You would think everybody knows exactly what everybody else is doing. It's not the case.
Sometimes even when you're in the same room, and like, oh, you're working on this one. Oh, okay, good to know.
So our role is also a little bit of please talk to the team, because you are actually both working on the same topic, but also, as Mintam said, sometimes be the devil's advocate and challenge the teams and tell them, well, this might not be your greatest idea, please test it with the customers.
Or even, why are you really doing it?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's like the first thing you should ask yourself.
Yeah. Where is the need? So how are we working? So strategic design is multifocal, and we balance, of course, multiple perspectives, and you all probably know the sweet spot of innovation, which we're also working on. We're working on the desirability, we're always looking at the viability and feasibility. So whenever we're starting a new venture, we're looking at the viability, the market size, we're looking at the desirability, is there a pain point, is there a user need, and we're looking at the feasibility, the tech side, because we don't want to be dependent on assets, we want to be as independent as possible, but also the business needs to be defendable. So if we see that the business can be rebuilt by another startup in a day, it just doesn't make sense to do this in the end. And of course, everything comes together in the business model canvas, and that's where we always apply our methods and our frameworks. So what are we actually doing? Let's go a little bit hands-on into some projects. Maybe you know Compensate. Do you know Compensate? Have you heard of it before? No. So with all the sustainability topic, and also our bigger topic is sustainability actually, because it is a very relevant topic. our airline had a lot of difficulties in last year, a lot of bad news. Then the word flight shaming appeared everywhere, and we were thinking, okay, how might we enable our customers to travel emission-free, and not emission-free with 20 years of tree planting, but with a direct impact into the environment. And we came up with Compensate, which is basically sustainable aviation fuel, and sustainable aviation fuel is like kerosene, but it's reused. So we use like old oil from chips production or food productions, basically oil from McDonald's and all companies.
Yeah, cooking oil.
Cooking oil, yeah. And this kind of cooking oil already has CO2 in the oil. So basically we recycle the oil and use this as kerosene. Because if you produce kerosene, you are producing a lot of CO2 emissions. So with this platform, we enable our customers to fly greener with a direct impact on their ecological footprint. And of course, this is also very interesting for us to observe, because we have you can choose between sustainable aviation fuel and trees, because 1 liter is basically €1, and 1 tree is, I think, 5 cents. Most people choose 30% sustainable aviation fuel, 70% trees, because it's much cheaper. There's a huge gap between the demand of sustainable services and the actual willingness to pay for it. And we can see that in almost every project we're currently doing, because we're also thinking about, for example, a green ticket or a green flight card. But we also see that people do want this, they want to travel emission-free, but they just don't want to pay for it. It's very interesting to see when is a good point also in the customer journey to address this kind of topic, because we see 2 peaks, for example, one in the booking of the flight itself, and then another one prior to the trip or directly after the trip. But people, for example, won't compensate if they just think about it after booking the trip. They just won't do it. And so there's still a huge field we didn't discover, and we still need to think about other options, like maybe you know it from FreeNow or Uber. If you tip your driver with 10% or 20%, maybe this is, for example, for us an option to give people the opportunity to compensate maybe 10% or 20% of their flight. I mean, that's a starting point, and it's better than nothing. But we didn't expect that huge gap of willingness to pay versus demand. And we support them in actually building up their company strategy, thinking about their vision, mission, and next steps, and prioritize their projects. Yeah, and rides.
Rides is another venture which is, I think, more than a year old already in our hub. So they're trying to move out of the hub this year. So this probably happens. And it's an app which the theme is transmodal loyalty. So I don't know if you know Miles and More. It's a reward system. Oh right, cool. You have rides. That's nice.
13,000 points.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's not bad.
And it's only in Berlin, so that's good. Maybe you know Miles and More. It's like an airline reward system where you get points for each flight, and you can use the points to get something out of it. And rides is something similar, but you get points for basically every mobility provider. So not only for your flights, it's also with when you take a bus, when you take an Uber, when you take an e-scooter. And when you upload the ticket onto the app, you get points for it. And the points are like a currency that you can use in the app to buy other products, like I know a voucher for Uber, or also lifestyle products like Headspace for a month or something. So you get stuff basically for free just when you upload your ticket. And the cool thing about rides is that it's very targeted to like the new generation. Like their products that you can get are very, I think, interesting more to us than like what you get from Miles and More. And it's 100% digital and mobile, so it really tries to make it very easy for you to use it.
And I think the most interesting part is the data, of course, because we see and we can analyze how are people moving in the urban area and how are people moving from the airport to their home space, how are they moving to their everyday workspace. And I think by now there's no loyalty program that has access to every mobility touch point. And with this app, we can actually see where are peak points, where can we approach our customers. And one idea is also, for example, to talk to cities about how can they make a better mobility ecosystem for their customers, because we actually see where there are gaps, where there are peak times, where there are problems. And I think that might be also very interesting to look into for your project, as I understood, the Berlin Way, where you're looking probably at how are people moving in the city. So maybe we can also, if you have some questions on that later, give some answers.
Another project were our Systemation play cards, and this is like a card game that we use basically for workshops when we are mostly in Frankfurt with the group, and it shows business sustainability trends. So on every card you have a concept that you can apply and make the business more sustainable. And still, it's like, because we see sustainability not only the ecological part, but sustainability is like the ecological part, then the social part, are people like treated fairly when they work for you, and also the profitable part. So sustainable also means that the idea is long term. You can't like give out everything and sustain the business. So that's another thing that we try to interconnect. And some examples would be like the company Tom's, where you buy like a pair of shoes and then they will buy another one for someone in need. And that's like one example of a card. And then we try to really collect different patterns of business and have the cards as an inspiration, to ideate on ideas.
So maybe you now have some questions for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One question about Ride. So do you guys profit like in terms of like money, or do you guys purely profit off of like the information you make off the people using your app?
For rides, especially. So the whole business model is not 100% fixed yet, but the idea is to partner up with companies around the field of mobility and transport, and accommodation also, to give them access to the customer groups, and in return give the customers rewards.
Okay.
So basically, we recommend and consult them on mobility, and in return they give us rewards for the customers, and we might get a percentage fee of a hotel booking, for example, or a mobility purchase.
Yeah. And this way we're trying to improve also for the customer and user their whole mobility usage. Because when we know their pain points, we can tell this to the responsible people, and then they can change it for the user.
Okay.
Along the line, what I found interesting is that there's competing companies, competing mobility providers who are all still working in this one rides apps. For example, the whole car sharing. You have Sixt, and you have WeShare, and you have all these other people who should be like really neck to neck on this thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's very competitive in Berlin.
Yeah, and I mean, we can also see from the data who's making a good job, who has a hard time at the moment. Yeah, I think Berlin is, in general, it's crazy. There are brands and companies and services popping up every day, but also dying every day. And especially e-scooters at the moment, I think are in the state of soon consolidation. So companies are thinking and talking to each other about buying other companies. I think Tier also, for example, I don't know if you know Coop. Coop had e-scooters, like actual scooters, not just the kick scooters. And Tier bought all the e-scooters now, and they will soon be available again under the name of Tier, who have kick scooters, and now also electric scooters soon.
And also Bird from the US, they bought Cirque. So they are
Cirque.
getting together.
Wow. Because that's relatively new in Berlin. The e-scooter just arrived last summer, and so we've seen that really change a lot. They see less of it because it's winter, but during the summer and fall, it was incredible.
Yeah.
Also, they are, I think, in very close contact with the government, because the city also can see the issues. Not everybody is happy about all the e-scooters on the sidewalk. Not everybody is happy about the e-scooter on their car, and or in the Fluss.
In the
River, yeah, because
some people just throw it in the water or something.
Yeah, it's not very
Crazy.
sustainable. And so they constantly also try to improve their business and service. I think currently, I think they're mainly working on the way how people can drop off the scooter in a better way, because currently it's everywhere and however you want. And now they're working on ways and features to improve this kind of customer journey point.
Did you try the e-scooter yet? What's your experience with it?
It's really fun. But the major problem with me, I haven't used it here, but I used it in the US. We just don't have like the public infrastructure for bikes and scooters, so it's a lot of people really hate it there comparatively to here.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys have incredible bike lanes compared to the US.
I don't know, Berlin is not that good with bike lanes actually.
I think
it
might be a situation where like here you have bike lanes, and in the US we like hardly have bike lanes. Like there's like a separate spot for bikes on the sidewalk.
Yeah. I used to live in Münster, it's another German city, and they are like the city of bikes in Germany. So you have like lights for bikes, you have everywhere bike lanes, you have police for bikes, so they come with their bikes and you have a light, they will stop you and stuff. It's like I don't know, Amsterdam kind of city.
So you guys said you guys are expanding to like Asia and countries like that. Do you guys have any steps on making like Europe or Germany or like just like the Western countries like into like more open to more like technological innovation? You know?
Yeah, as far as we have the power for it, we try to learn a lot from Asia, and we have a lot of we talk a lot with the colleagues that are in Singapore. Yeah, I think we try to do it in the Lufthansa world. I don't know how it will expand to other industries in Germany, but I feel like if we do it and we have a lot of like media coverage, we have our own newsletter, our website that talks about it, I think that it also might be cross-industry.
Do you guys have different strategies in between like Singapore and here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in Singapore, for example, we don't have venture developers there because currently we know there are still processes we need to define and refine in Germany itself with our ventures, how they can also jump off and get funded. And we want to focus on growing in Germany and Europe first before trying to build something in Asia. But in Asia we're focusing more on investments and partnerships because we want to mainly learn from them and then apply it in Germany.
So currently Christine Wang, it's our head of business development, she tries to talk to a lot of startups in Asia and goes there and introduces herself and the hub in Singapore to find ways to work together in the future. And later on, I guess we will have ability there. Yeah.
Since you guys are like designing for Germany and Europe, is there anything that you guys keep in mind when designing for like a new project or anything?
Specifically for Germany or
like the area where you guys are covering right now?
We always try to match it with our target group. Like I think Rides is a very good example where we made a good approach for branding and also UX and UI design that matches the millennials' needs and expectations. But we also have ventures where it's not that relevant actually. We're also, for example, working on new ways of buying flights. So we have 10 flight passes, for example, for Austrian and Swiss, and we're currently working on the flight card, which is like a Bahn card for flying, where you get a 10%, 20% discount on every flight you're booking. And for that, we just apply the design of the airline and we just produce white label versions. And in the very beginning, right now, it's just important for us to get a sense of, is there a user need? Do people actually buy it? And just later on, we will redefine the whole UI, UX. It's just a second step because right now we're more or less in the process of doing the proof of concept and user need.
So looking into you guys' website, you guys have a lot of products and like what are some of the ways where you guys generate new ideas for like a new product, or how do you like think of it?
Well, last year there's like a trainership, is it called trainership? Trainees from the group come here for a week, and then we ideated on a new concept. So they had Monday to Friday to brainstorm, have an idea, work in sessions with us and our methods, to have in the end on Friday a pitch deck that they can present. And then we have like a lot of ideas that we also collect and have a list of, and when there's time for a new venture to think about, we have all of these different ideas and go through all of it and choose if it's like the right time for it to really develop. And yeah, we also take our time sometimes to ideate. Yeah.
So
This quarter we wanted to have our own time to not only enable others to think about new ideas, but also ourselves to start an idea. And maybe in the future it will come to life.
yeah, so for example, we are doing each opportunity space where in the end we will have a research paper about one field, for example, well-being or solo traveling, and we don't know if there's an opportunity, we don't know if there's a market, but we just go into this field, explore it, and maybe in the end of a quarter there will be one opportunity space for a venture. But the second step is always we're going very fast from the idea itself to analyzing, making a very quick and short analysis of how big is the market, how can we get money, how can we earn money from it, can we actually do it, how defensible is it, is somebody else quickly going to steal our idea and rebuild our idea, and what is our advantage with the Lufthansa group. So in the end, this is how we also decide on which idea we're going to approach.
Yeah. But in the beginning it's like very user focused, so we really try to understand the one that we approach, and then from his or her problem we try to find a solution that is sustainable.
What are some problems you guys might have faced, and then how do you guys overcome?
I think some problems are that we're sometimes too fast. So and our ventures are growing very, very fast, and there's no structure sometimes, and they don't take a break to look at the idea and analyze their issues and solutions. So they're just running and keep producing, and then most of the times we're coming into the project, into the venture, and then help them, for example, build personas, which takes a lot of time because we always have to go into the data, and most of the times it's really that we have to force them take their time to take a small step back, look into their project, look into their product, look into their customer needs, and then rebuild their product. So there's, for example, I think a very a problem that appears in every venture.
Do you guys get any friction between the creatives in the team and the non-creatives in terms of like communication and understanding each other? And if you do, like, what strategies do you guys have to like?
Basically, like really trying to talk a lot and see each other a lot and know where the other person is. But of course, sometimes there are challenges because the communication didn't happen. So we have to bring everyone to the table and bring everyone to the same update.
Also, it's very important to always have an explanation for your opinion, or have an explanation for what you're saying, because also I just started here 4 months ago, and I directly went into the rest and like, okay, this product, it looks fake to me. I think the customers are very skeptical. And like, no, it's the best. It's good. How can you say it's fake? It looks fake.
The website.
Yeah, the website, because it wasn't designed well. Nobody was looking at the text, so there were weird spaces, weird spacings, and then I realized, okay, I really have to help them analyze it themselves, and then I showed them on Google Analytics, for example. You could see that every second user went directly to FAQ and the legal side, which is a small hint that something's not okay, and they're very skeptical. And then we also saw that people are coming back to the site like 8 times to recheck, is it real, is it not real, is this a good discount, is it not? So then I could prove my sense and opinion. So it's always very important to have a proof for what you want to say, and to also talk in business language to them.
And the best is to start with everyone in the beginning, and not like they do something and then hand it over, and they do something and hand it over, because then something like this happens. So if you start together, you're synchronized and it's easier.
So we are sponsored by Visit Berlin, and we're like doing a project. So we're like really curious about like what factors do you think can influence the travelers' pre-trip phase, or like their what factor is like post-trip that actually like is related to the whole trip itself, that makes it like a positive or a negative experience.
That's a big question.
Think about it. Just real quick. So we were actually talking about this topic in the last weeks, because we were thinking a lot about what is really painful for us when we're traveling. And what's really painful for us is the preparation of our home, like get somebody to water your plants, get
Feed
somebody,
the cat.
feed the cat, take the dog, and put out all your food that will be rotten when you're coming back, and but also in the post-trip when you're coming back, you have to clean all your stuff. You have the big luggage that's in your home. So we're thinking, why is there no service yet that makes it easier for me? Why is there no such assistant? Like, I mean, we know that in America, companies sometimes have errands or people that run errands for them. Why is there no such thing in Germany for us? Why is there no such service which helps us to not destroy our holiday memories and our holiday mood by coming back to reality very fast and in a hard way, but helping us to stay in this kind of holiday mood.
I think the trigger and the post-trip phase, they are very emotional, and it's very personal. So I think where we can improve is more like the practical side, where we can reduce the pain points and people don't have to think about things so much, and they can focus on more the emotional part of it. So yeah, I think that's maybe an opportunity to better it.
Also, I mean, you're always happy if you get a good note in the end, and maybe airlines or also accommodations or travel and transport companies could give me a small note, like it's really nice that you stayed with us, like with you when you have an Airbnb review and the host reviews you as a guest and says like, was all perfect, would recommend her to the next day, just some nice words like a thank you. I think it's also a good thing to always have. I mean, who doesn't like thank you?
So have Lufthansa been looking into like certain startups in America that do offer those people who do errands for you? Like I know in America there's a startup called TaskRabbit, and I'm not sure if they're really launched in Europe yet, but has Lufthansa been looking into partnering with these groups to solve that pre-trip issue?
I actually think no, but it's a good hint. We had an approach 2 years ago, which wasn't working in Germany, and it wasn't working for us because it's very asset heavy. Because you have to hire people, you have to do all the errands, and we're more focusing on the digital business and digital service, because it's easier for us to maintain, it's easier for us to scale it. But we are observing many startups in Germany at the moment. We're not successfully growing a lot currently, but we also think that the opportunity in Germany, and it wasn't working for us because it's very asset heavy, because you have to hire people, you have to do all the errands, and we're more focusing on the digital business and digital service, because it's easier for us to maintain, it's easier for us to scale it. But we are observing many startups in Germany at the moment. We're not successfully growing a lot currently, but we also think that the opportunity space for them to grow is just opening, because at the moment there's so many mobility providers also popping up, that the demand of somebody doing all those booking things and rebooking and changing flights is just at the starting point, because it's getting too complex.
That's
Most of the questions. Maybe we can shift gears a little bit about, learn a little bit about you personally. What's your background? How did you end up being in Berlin? How is Berlin affecting you positively, negatively? How did you actually tap into the creative scene of Berlin, both personally and as an innovation hub?
Personally, I think both of us, it was a very conscious decision to go to Berlin. And both of us here, we come from design. For me, I studied graphic design in my bachelor's, and I did a lot of internships, and it's something I really like, but I knew from the internships that I might want to do something more strategic, and in my master's it was more about the idea and the concept and how to work in groups and guide them a little bit. And after that, I mostly applied for jobs here in Berlin because I like the city, a lot of opportunities here, the creative side, and a lot of my friends from my studies, they came to Berlin because it's like the place to be.
Where did you study?
Well, the bachelor was in Münster.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of people from Münster, which is like a really beautiful city, but very maybe not so. It is creative, but not very not so much freedom that you get in Berlin. And I really like big cities. I also was an au pair in the States, close to New York, and I wanted something similar, but here in Germany. So that's why it was Berlin, and also the innovation hub. So I wanted to bridge it between innovation, design, and that's, I think, here what I found. Yeah.
So I was also studying product design, and in the very early stage I noticed I don't want to design products, but I want to do research, I want to do concept, I want to do strategy, and I also went to the Ohio State University to learn a lot about co-creation, because it was, at that point, it wasn't a big topic in Germany yet. Nobody was thinking about co-creating products with your customers together, or with all stakeholders. And then I came back and I ended up in the field of automotive, in a big automotive company, and it was quite interesting, but it was also a very slow process because it's a big company. And I decided to go to a branding and design agency to help companies transform and help startups to create a brand strategy, create a company strategy. And in the end, I also ended up in Shanghai. And at that point, I was living in Stuttgart, and I ended up in Shanghai working with a mobility startup. And then I came back, and Stuttgart was just super small, close-minded city because I had that opening mind experience. And also at that point, I was working with a fintech startup, and I was very close in contact with the whole fintech community in Berlin and the whole startup community. And I ended up at a community space, which is the Factory in Berlin, where I think almost all startups are based in the Factory or are coming from the Factory. It's just a huge network of tech and creative people that are working together on ideas that are helping out each other, and I still enjoy this network and the access to those people, and that's also the reason why I decided to move to Berlin. And I wanted to find something in between this crazy consulting agency world and the company world, and and I found the Lufthansa Innovation Hub, and I think for me it's also that I like to have one field where I can focus on, and I like the field of travel and mobility tech. It's very interesting for me. I enjoy traveling. I was always interested in mobility and how people move. I think it's a very also emotional field where everybody of us collects a lot of memories, emotions, and I think it's just very a human field, and I like the approach of the Lufthansa Innovation Hub, how we're approaching this topic, how we're doing innovation, and it's a very I think family friends way of working also here. So it's also the culture why I decided to work at an innovation hub.
And Berlin specifically because there's a lot of opportunity to talk to each other, and if you want you can go to a meetup event every day, every evening. There's always something happening, and the most interesting talks are here, and we always seek out all the opportunities, and I think that's the best place for it.
And also from the innovation hub point of view, I think for us it's very relevant to be in Berlin because we need to scale our businesses fast, and the people in Berlin are all very open-minded. Everybody is helping each other. That's not very usual to German people. There are a lot of cities where innovation is happening behind big walls. I mean, if we look at all the automotive companies, nobody's telling anything. They're working for 4 years on a concept, and then ta-da, there's a concept, this is our innovation. Nobody's talking to each other, and this is not our approach. We want to be open. We are living from our network and from talking to each other, and that's why also from the innovation hub perspective as creatives, it's way better to be in Berlin than in a very German city.
Yeah, and not being physically at Frankfurt at the group, it's also very helpful because then we do our own thing, and sometimes we ask stuff or inform things, but mostly we just do our own thing here.
Do they ever, I'm sure they have a lot of things they would love for you to think about, right?
Yeah.
So how do you juggle that? Because if you're this innovation hub, that they have a lot of pain points, a lot of issues that they would love someone else to work on. How do you decide what you take on and what you don't? Do you say no? to, and what do you take on?
So there are, in the field of innovation, there are 3 horizons, I think founded by McKinsey. And Horizon 1 would be very close to the airline business. It's making innovation in the service on board, making innovation of the seat in the plane. H2, Horizon 2 or Horizon 2 would be, for example, making a better service of the baggage at the airport or at the airport entrance, making a better check-in, making better security check. And we want to focus on Horizon 3, which is very, let's say, far away from the airline business, because our core goal is to innovate in this space. And we have a lot of innovation teams in the group itself as well that are working on a new website, working on a new app. I think it was very clear from the very beginning that our strategy is not to do this, and we just denying everything because we are only doing Horizon 3. But of course sometimes like compensate is kind of in between Horizon 2 and 3. We're doing ventures that are not specifically in Horizon 3, but then it's also very interesting for us to because we can go out of Horizon 2, because for example compensate would be very interesting also for travel companies, for booking platforms like booking.com, Expedia, to integrate compensate in such booking platform, which is not the goal of Lufthansa, but for us it is.
What are some of your like favorite projects that you guys have worked on? Like favorite projects to work on for you guys?
It really depends, because when we work on a project we have different sessions with the teams, so it's very like session based. But we really like to work with rides, I think, because there's a lot of things to share, and they're very, very willing to use our methods and our advice and implement it very fast. Yeah, and it was one of our most current sessions.
Yeah, I also really enjoy working with the ventures and sprints to look into their user data, which we also did with rides, to get a feeling for who is actually using our app. Because we wanted to address millennials, but we didn't know, are we addressing millennials, or is this the business traveler and the best ager who is using the app? And
What is the best ager?
it's Generation X, I think.
What is it?
Then I'm a best ager. That's a
I've never
euphemism
heard
for
that
old
term
fart
before.
or
Yeah.
Best ager.
Best ager.
best ager.
Yeah. It's, I think, close to 40, 50. Yeah, Generation X.
Okay, I'm gonna get a t-shirt now.
Best
ager.
Yeah, and while looking at the user data, we could create profiles, create personas, and in the end we could make a profile of who are our personas and how are they traveling, what are their pain points, what are their user needs, which is always in the beginning an assumption from our side. And in the end we had 3 people with brands and touch points that we can now directly address, and we can change our product in certain parts. And I think those are the work streams that I really enjoy, where I have tons of Excel data which is very painful to look at. And in the end, I have this very clear picture for the next steps, because I know, oh shit, we have so many business travelers, but we want to have leisure travelers. So how can we make this happen? And we see how business travelers are behaving and what are their needs, and we see leisure travelers, and then we can say, okay, if we want to have leisure travelers, then we exclude this feature. If we want to have business travelers, then we need to do this feature. And it becomes very, very clear for us what are the next steps, and that's very valuable for us and also for the ventures.
So a question, since you guys have worked with other startups and know about other startups, what are some creatives or startups that we should kind of keep our eyes on?
There are a lot.
Yeah,
So I think we even have this map with all the startups.
Choose your favorites.
So those are just the mobility startups, not even the accommodation startups. I think there's no startup that's not really worth looking at, but I think every day it just depends on which topic you're looking at. For example, yesterday we discovered a startup that wants to do subscriptions for hotel bookings. So I pay a yearly fee or a monthly fee, and I can extend all my business trips to leisure trips. So they're focusing on what we call it leisure customers, and they will have a subscription model, and they will give the customers points and rewards for booking on their platform, so it becomes cheaper and it becomes kind of a membership and a club. So yeah, it really depends, but you can on our travelandmobility.tech website, which is our blog, where we have a lot of articles, and the newsletter by the Discover team, so everything is database. We also have this overview of all startups that we're looking at, sorted by the range you're using it. So you have the short distance mobility and urban mobility, you have the short haul travel and the long haul travel.
I love how you go from scooter to
Yeah,
spacecraft.
So this is travelandmobility.tech. Can we access that?
Yes.
Yes, so that's
Open
good.
to everyone.
So that's open to everyone.
Yeah.
So within Berlin, what are the mobility, travel and mobility? Are there, how many in Berlin are working sort of these companies?
I don't know how many exactly, but I think
Just even, are there other, at the factory right now, are there any startups that are working in this area?
Yeah, for sure. There are startups like I think Omayo is currently one of the first unicorns from Berlin that are doing transmodal mobility and travel. So you could you can book a trip from A to Z just via one platform. And I think they are the most current born unicorn in Berlin. I think most of the micro-mobility startups are in Berlin as well as probably a third of the urban mobility and short-haul travel. But we also have a lot of restrictions, like there won't be probably air taxis in Berlin because you either have a hospital close by or you have a school close by, and school and hospital means no drones, no air taxis. So
Interesting.
there probably won't be a thing like air taxis coming to Berlin.
Very soon.
Very
But
soon.
we're looking into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, our research team is, I think they also have a newsletter dedicated to air travel, where they write about air taxis and their updates.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we also from the strategic team are starting to also think of post and publish things soon.
Oh, one quick question, might be a little relevant, since our group is a little new to Berlin, do you have any cool like music venue recommendations or bars?
Or a restaurant. There's so many.
I'm not that into music venues, so maybe.
Yeah, I know what kind of music.
Anything like from experimental pop to jazz or
I
hip
know
hop.
the website, it's called Ask Helmut, and it's a really cool website because they show you all the current events from day to day, and then you can just scroll through it, and they also have like, do you know the website?
No, I'm just gonna type it.
Okay.
Whatever.
Or also mit Vergnügen, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
more for food. And then you can show like tips or pick of the day. It's not only music, like, yeah, you can also try out some sports sessions, but in the evening there's some stuff. I like, what's it called, das auf dem Parkdeck?
Klunkerkranich.
Ah yeah, Klunkerkranich, but it's more nice in the summer because it's like a
It is.
rooftop.
I think it's closed right now, so it's a
It is?
favorite of
Okay.
Art Center to go to that place,
Yeah.
but it's because of the weather now, it's closed.
Ah, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there for a concert recently and it was really nice. But yeah, it very much changes. But I really like the website because it shows you current things.
Thank you.
Do you do other things in Berlin just for inspiration? I mean, sometimes you know, it doesn't have to be an official gallery or official club, but how do you recharge your creative batteries in Berlin? What are your strategies? What do you do? Who do you hang out with? Where you go?
Meeting friends, and most of my friends are designers. Yeah, I don't know, just very normal stuff, like meeting in a bar or coming over. Yeah, I did also like creative sessions with friends where I invited friends and then we just like drew stuff.
Creative session is a
Yeah,
very
it's
formal way to say
Get drunk.
it. Yeah. I'm gonna start using that.
And yeah, sports also. I don't know if you know about Urban Sports Club. I think in the US you have ClassPass, where you can go to different gyms and yoga studios and everything, and you pay a monthly fee. So I try a lot of different sports things.
Yeah.
Climbing, bouldering. Yoga is a big thing in Berlin. Workouts.
So it's called Urban Sports Club.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm basically doing the same besides the creative sessions. My friends are not designers. But I also try on the weekends to go outside into nature because sometimes it's enough with all those buildings here and graffitis. You just want to go outside and see nature and enjoy fresh air. I have a Vespa, so I really like to just drive outside and enjoy the sun. But also, I think almost every weekend or every second weekend, I like to go to galleries. We also just recently went to the Boros collection, which we
That would be interesting for you guys maybe to.
recommend.
We're still trying to get a group
Yeah.
your boss, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
difficult.
Well, I think we're getting positive
Close.
signs.
Yes.
We're getting very close if you get that.
That's cool. Yeah,
Mm.
I would definitely recommend that, or also the underground tour of all the bunkers, and I mean even the history is super interesting if you go to the I don't know how it's called in English, Spionage Museum. It's about DDR. Spy museum. It's about all the different methods how they were spying out people at home, and they have the microphones in the books, and they have little cameras that they position at your home when you're not there, and that's super interesting to see how far technology was 50 years ago. Yeah, and besides that, a lot of meeting friends and cooking sessions.
I'm looking around the room. Any more parting questions? Do you, maybe one more, who do you think, like, besides of being like in official hubs, is doing really interesting stuff in the creative field here? You know, these could be artists, designers, self-made people. I know that you're very clued into the whole startup scene, but you know, maybe even there, are there like some really wild cats? You don't know where they're going, but they're interesting to look at.
So I know that in the factory there's a big group of data artists, and I personally find it very interesting how this whole movement of artists that are doing virtual visualizations of data is growing, and that's very interesting because they're also working on interactive formats where your personal data, when you're in the space, is creating a different piece of art, and I think that's very interesting to look at.
Do they have a name, that group, or does it just go to the factory and say, hey, who's doing data art?
Yeah, I have to look it up. I think
we can find that out. The factory had a launch for a Dre
yes.
Beats on Wednesday
Yes.
that I went to, that had one of those artists displaying his or her work. And it's something actually that at our school that we do more of, I think, that is an area that is explored at our school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And besides that, there are very few small things also. There are also, in summer there are a lot of graffiti groups and courses where you just meeting up and doing graffitis. There are a lot of dance and creative groups meeting up, but it's all basically organized over Meetup. And I think currently in winter everything's a little bit slow and not happening a lot because everybody's still freezing and going home early, sleeping. But I think Berlin is awakening in March again. Yeah, but I can totally recommend the data artist group.
Any more parting questions? Oh.
I just wanted to talk about a gallery that I went to, but I can't remember the name. It was like they have one location here in Berlin and one in China, and then they exchange the art pieces. So people here can get educated by the art from Asia, and the people there have exponents from Berlin. But I don't know the name of it anymore.
We can find out.
Is it the Fellini Gallery?
What again?
Is it the Fellini Gallery?
I
I
really
think
don't.
I remember going to something in Shanghai where they did this.
Ah, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, good. Any more parting questions from anyone?
What are your plans for this week?
That's good questions from you.
Huh? Oh,
Where are you guys headed?
Yeah, what's going on?
Greece.
Greece.
Paris.
Is there anything to do in Bremen?
Bremen?
I've never been to Bremen.
Me neither.
But yeah,
I think
it's a nice city.
yeah.
I should go to Hamburg.
I mean, it's. I think you will find a lot of German culture and tales in Bremen. So
The students are, this is their long weekend, so they don't have their studio on Monday, and then after this meeting, then they can take off, and so that's why some of them are traveling, because in the US, for us to fly an hour gets you nowhere in California, it gets you to San Francisco or to Phoenix, Arizona, but here it takes you long, so that's why it's sort of a special weekend.
I was going to Vegas.
What's that?
Vegas.
Oh, Vegas, I forgot about that.
T, what are you going to do? You're going to Greece. Oh, it's going to Greece, okay.
We're going to Amsterdam.
All right.
Be fun. Have some space cake. Space cake.
One space.
Like an edible, essentially.
So you don't need to go to Amsterdam anymore. Okay, well, thank you very, very much for your hospitality, those deep insights. Wonderful what you guys are doing, super exciting. Also to learn a little bit, about where you're from, how you take what motivates you. I think that's very interesting for everyone to hear. This is a very dynamic project. We're going to do our midterms. It's coming up very quickly now. And then the finals are going to be in the beginning of April. And we're still kind of figuring out the whereabouts, but it's probably going to be a little bit more of a bigger event. And we're going to make sure that you will be invited. Also, as the students are developing their projects, can they approach you again when they say, well, I forgot to ask this or that, or they have a very specific question that relates to their group? Because we have 4 different lenses, so we're looking at tourism through the lens of the music scene, the art scene, architecture, the urban environment, and food. And I'm sure that the individual teams will have questions that really go into the space of where you're very experienced at.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's also this one food event which might be interesting for you. It's happening, I think, once a year, and it's called Blackout. So there are no phones and no electrical devices allowed, and everything is basically back to the roots. And it's a experience of enjoying food and everything as it was before all our electric devices
When
were
is
invented.
that? When is that?
It's on the 29th of February, I think.
So it's coming up.
Wait, so it's called blackout? Is it called blackout because there's no lights? Or blackout?
Power. No
Yeah,
lights.
just in general, no power at all.
It's unplugged.
Okay.
It's also in the old electricity in an old electricity building, which is not working anymore.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you very, very much. Meantime,
Thank you.
Vera, thanks a lot. Give Tino our very best.
Yes.
Say that we're very happy that he got to stay home because now we get to talk to you. So thanks again very much, and I hope you don't mind if we're, you know, we have an editor that puts all of this together. We're gonna work on a blog website, and you will be shown on that. In America, you would have to sign off like papers and all kinds of stuff.
I think in Germany as well.
Yeah.
It's okay.
All right.
You have our yes on video, so.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks again very much.
Thank you.